guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. My name is Joshua Ansley, and today or tonight we're going to talk about Vishuddha, the fifth chakra, the throat. This is a really exciting space. This is where we start to move into much subtler areas, right? So as we work through the first four chakras already, we've worked through the four really tangible elements, right? Earth, water, fire, air. And now we're moving into much subtler places. We can still feel it a little bit, right? So this is, depending on which modality you use, this is the space of ether, right? And space. Some places also use sound, which I do like sound, as a musician, so I like to go with that one as well. But it's also an understanding of ether and space. It's where we actually start to let go of attachment, right? So this is where we start to really get into those ethereal realms. So we're starting into higher areas of not necessarily being tangible, right? And not being in this grounded nature. So there's the issue that if it's really beautiful when we open up into this space, but if we're not grounded down through the other work, if we have a lot of dark psychological forces working in the lower areas, then this is not going to open up into a beautiful space. This is going to be some real terror and dread as we don't have grounding down through the earth, or at least that is my personal experience. Some teachers work less about integration, in the planetary sense, in grounding, and more just about transcendence. And I find that transcendence is really wonderful, but if we don't have that grounded nature, then it could be terrifying, really. It could be when you don't have a sense of a strong sense of self, is really right. As we work down through those lower chakras, then we get into the Vishuddha, and it opens up into subtler areas that can be terrifying when we get into those spaces. So this is also why a lot of this work is not intended to be done alone, that it is intended to be done with someone else, just as like a little caveat, right? It's intended, that's why they say to have a guru or something. I don't necessarily believe in necessarily having to have a guru, but to have somebody helping, so you're not doing this work alone, so you can understand what's happening, because there's a lot of pitfalls along this path. So Vishuddha is, through the throat, right? And this is where obviously a strong sense of communication. Now, as well as speaking, this is also about listening. So it's very easy to get into it's kind of like in the heart space where we have the sense of giving, but also learning to receive, and through the back of the heart space and through the front of the heart space. And through Vishuddha, it's not just about speaking, right? So there's a lot of people that would be like, I speak my mind. I'm just being truthful. I'm just being honest. It's like, no, you're being an asshole. And actually, you just need to close off through the chakra a little bit, and you need to learn to listen. Right? That is an important, incredibly important part of Vishuddha, and opening up through Vishuddha is listening. And so it's not just listening to the words. I mean, if we're speaking about language, because it's not just listening to words at all. It's the act of listening. But aside from there's the ears that hear, right? But then there's the divine principle of being able to hear, of being able to listen. And that is different. And that is, so it's not just hearing the words, but actually listening to the message and actually hearing the message. And it's interesting because as these different chakras manifest through other chakras, it's like we can actually listen with not just our ears, we can listen with our heart. We can listen to a message. So not just, even if it is in language and we hear it through the ears, we can hear a message through the heart. And with sound, that's what's so great about sound, and why I like it as a part of this element too, because we don't just hear sound, we actually do feel sound. So it is still a denser vibration than as we move up into like light and stuff like that in the future chakras, in the higher chakras, than this. But there is still, as a bass player, right? It's like, I love that vibration. I love that feeling of that wave, those sound waves. And it is such a healing thing as we can listen through other areas of the body, as we can feel and hear a message through our bodies. So yeah, this is Vishuddha means purification, right? So this is where we are purified as we move up into higher levels and higher levels of communication too, right? There is a sense of, in that purification, there is Amrita, it's called. It's the principle, it's the nectar of the gods, basically, that drips down from Agya into this space. So again, it's not just about opening up through this space, because some of us may need to actually not just be open, and it's like there's oversharing, and there is it's about becoming aware of the power of our words, aware of the power of the tongue, right? And as we have, there's a really I can't remember, Kachari, is that the name of it? I can't remember the mudra, but it's taking the tongue and pointing it. I spoke about it in the earlier one, and pointing it up towards the soft palate. There's actually a practice in some extreme sects that will cut underneath that will cut underneath the tongue, so that you can take the tongue actually not just up to the soft palate, but behind the soft palate, and point it up towards the pineal gland, so that the energy, the kundalini energy coming up through the spine, is then coming up through the tongue, and it's pointing right up, and it's supposed to be like really fucking king mudra kind of thing. So this is, like I said, it's not just about opening it up, but it's about becoming aware of not just listening, hearing, or what. And I think it's in like, what's the Nick Nolte, 48 Hours. I think it's in Nick Nolte and the 48 Hours of Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy or something like that. He's like, you hear me, but you're not listening, or you're listening, but you don't hear me, or something like that. It's kind of like that. It's like, not just hearing the words, but actually hearing the message on deeper levels. So being able to contact this space of truly listening in our hearts and in our minds. And of course, obviously, communicating clearly and understanding our thoughts, so that we are able to communicate them clearly. And this is important as we reach out to humanity, and reach out, particularly in a creation. This is our self-expression. This is really important in our self-expression. If we're closed off here, we're not be able to properly communicate our needs and our wants and our desires, or communicate ourselves in any way, right? So again, that communication doesn't just happen through the throat. That communication essence can be expressed throughout the body in any way, but if we're closed off through the throat chakra, then our communication and our expression will be closed off. So if there is something that we're needing to say that hasn't been said, that is a really important practice to be getting out there. And it's so important to have somebody in your life that you can tell anything to. If you have secrets, I can guarantee you, of the 8 billion people that are now on this planet, whatever you're going through, whatever you have done or has been done to you, has happened to someone else on this planet. You are not alone. And if it's not the 8 billion that are here, it's the however many billions that have been living in the past, since the dawn of humankind, right? Everybody has experienced, not everybody, but there have been people that have experienced everything that you're going through. So you're not alone. So, it's kind of hard. It's kind of like, I talk about this in like 12 steps. It's the 12-step programs are kind of like shopping at TJ Maxx. You got to sift through a lot of fucking shit, right? But they're really cheap, and you can find some really amazing things there, but you got to put the work into it. So, but it's amazing to have people that recognize that it's okay to be who we are as human beings, right? That we all have these flaws, that nothing is this taboo bullshit, right? To have a safe space in order to communicate the things that are happening with us, so that we don't have to have secrets, that we don't have to carry around shame and guilt and close off here and be afraid to express who we truly are, right? So we allow ourselves to release this attachment to all these old negative ideas, negative belief systems, and things like this, as we move into this sense of detachment. That the positive archetype of this space is the spiritual seeker, right? So this is where we start to seek something outside of just the tangible, earthly realm of those lower elements, this is where we start to get into something that's a little bit subtler and harder to contact, harder to express even, right? That's why it's going to be so hard to express ourselves through this space, because language is ultimately limited. That these concepts, we try as we may, and that's how we use these different elements too, of like sound. That's what's so great about being a musician, is like we're able to express things musically in ways, you can use lyrics, and lyrics are part of it, maybe in your music, but this is an ability to express something deeper, to express emotional states that can't really be conveyed in other ways, and so that is the power of Vishuddha, right? The self-expression. So yeah, there's a lot of really awesome practices and a lot of poses that are great for this, like lion's breath, the pranayama, sticking out the tongue, right, and eyes coming together, looking absolutely fucking insane, but it feels so good to actually exhale fully and to use the lion's breath, and maybe visualizing anything that is no longer needed, all this black smoke, anything that is no longer serving us, coming out on that breath with the tongue out and the eyes coming together, rolling towards the crown of the Agya chakra there. It is a powerful breath to use. So yeah, that's all I have to really say about Vishuddha. In Lakesha Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste. What? Too much?